And that is the person I was waiting for. So I say it's 6:05. We should just do it here. We should just go for it. So
All right.
I'm going to admit Phil, and then I'll just jump right in
Sounds
to
good.
our intro. But first, Pearl, are we good? Are we recording?
Yes, it's all good.
Awesome. Then I'm just going to go for it. So hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Ellen Mueller. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm the director of the MCAD MFA program. And welcome to our summer 2021 professional practices series. I'm going to start out with a little visual description of myself in case we have anybody with low vision participating tonight. I am a middle-aged white woman with brown hair, brown eyes, and I'm sitting in a studio office space. And before I go on, I'm going to move on to our land acknowledgement here. I want to start out by respectfully acknowledging the land that we're occupying here in Minneapolis. This is unceded territory from the Dakota and Anishinaabe peoples. And gathering here, we pay our respects to the elders, both past and present. And if you're interested in learning about land acknowledgements, take a quick screenshot of this page. Both of these links are really informative and can help inform your own land acknowledgement activities. Everyone, we have to mention, this is sponsored by the MCAD MFA program. We are a really great program. I'm a little bit biased, that is made up of makers, thinkers, researchers, and creative professionals working in a mentor-based interdisciplinary environment. And if you're curious to learn more, check out our URL listed right there on screen. And some technicalities here. You'll notice your audio and video are muted for this webinar. If you experience any tech difficulties, just shoot us an email or reach out in the chat. Also, a recording of this webinar will be made available to MCAD students after the event. And we have to say thank you because we've got amazing staff who support these events and make them possible. We've got Gonzalo Reyes Rodriguez, Kylie Van Note, Seth Dahlside, and Nikki Motocolum. And tonight our tech support is Pearl Davis. We couldn't do this without them. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this evening. Paul Trenny is a 25-year-old veteran. Sorry, a 25-year design veteran and Adobe's principal evangelist, where he focuses on helping designers of all types create award-winning work for all screens. So it is my pleasure to stop sharing my screen and hand this over to Paul. Welcome, Paul.
All right. Thank you, Ellen. Thanks so much. And again, those all that might be visually impaired, middle-aged white man, 25 years old. Not really, but yeah, just in my downstairs office, actually, just kind of white walls with a bunch of figurines on my shelves, as you can see. So yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to talk to you guys about, of course, like LinkedIn learning and kind of, I guess, roughly my career path in the hopes that it inspires you and motivates you, because we could all use some motivation, that's for sure. So I'm just happy to be here. And we'll dive into this. I have some slides. Otherwise, I'm going to talk to you guys kind of about sort of like my career and LinkedIn learning and how all of that works. So, but I think I will just go ahead and, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Again, couple of visuals for you, if you will, just, this first slide. So, yeah, I am the principal worldwide Creative Cloud evangelist for Adobe. And I've been doing this for about 10, 11, 12 years or so. If I step back, I actually went to Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design here in Denver, Colorado, where I'm located. And yeah, so Colorado native. I drew in school and then just, ended up going to art school. And of course I loved it, because what's not to love about art school, folks? The only thing is, like, hey, how do you get a job? It's like, okay, I'm going to be graduating. What happens next? And just so you know, I worked for a bunch of multimedia agencies, made a lot of CD-ROMs, mini CDs. I did illustrations for newspaper, got involved in some interactive television network, which was just like a startup, but just like, I've done all sorts of things from like 95 to about 2002. But a lot of it was sort of doing Flash animation and even some training using Authorware back in the day, Macromedia. Macromedia Authorware, Macromedia Flash, Macromedia Director back in the day. And I'd make trainings on how to use phones, of all things, here in Denver and stuff, like certain phone systems. But yeah, so that's what I did. I did a lot of graphic design for, 10, 12 years. Here's just like, I guess, some more snapshots just to kind of, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, yeah, it looks all very, it was a sign of the times. These visuals were very much, I don't know, I guess late 2000, late 1990s, early 2000s, roughly. So, but it was really fun. And I think I was really motivated. I actually eventually met somebody. I met somebody who actually at a conference that owned a training company. And it was just the type of company that trains people on how to use Photoshop, like a crash course in 3 days. Here's everything you need to know about Photoshop, or here's the latest in Macromedia Dreamweaver, for instance. So yeah, I think she saw that I was motivated and was like, "Hey, do you want to come work for my very small company where we do trainings to top professionals?" So that's what I did. I started. She actually helped me get certified through Adobe to become an Adobe certified instructor. Just so you know. And so I did that for like a long time, just so you know. I basically, all right, cool. Ooh, I might have this wrong. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so cool. So basically, yeah, that's what I did. I worked for multimedia companies, and I also did trainings once a month where I'd take time off and go do these trainings. Key thing is I started to get to be known within training circles at Adobe, and Adobe actually worked with LinkedIn at the time. So, and actually back then they were known as lynda.com. So LinkedIn Learning was called lynda.com back in the day, right? And it was awesome. So basically I became a Lynda trainer in my spare time, where instead of giving these courses, these 3-day crash courses to people in a room, I'd actually record these courses in a smaller room to distribute to others, basically for their online training library, which I can show you guys as well. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Like, Adobe got to know me, and therefore Lynda got to know me, lynda.com. So I did training for lynda.com for like 10 years. Probably had to get 20 plus titles through lynda.com. And then Lynda was bought by good old, let me just change this, LinkedIn. And that probably happened maybe about 5 years ago, is what I would say. So, all right, cool. Hopefully that makes sense, Ellen. Awesome. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. It's like, I just kind of took advantage of certain opportunities, and one thing led to another, basically. And that's how I became a trainer at LinkedIn Learning. I kind of want to share my screen once more really fast. Oh, let's share this with you. Here you go. So again, here's just kind of an idea. It actually says only 7 courses, but I've done 25 plus. I've done so many courses. I started out with a Premiere Pro. Do you guys want to get this? Like, I started out with a Adobe Premiere Pro Essential Training course. Because you know why? Lynda at the time asked Adobe, saying, "Hey, we need training for Premiere Pro." And then they just kind of turned to me, an outside vendor guy. It's like, "Hey, Paul, do you know Premiere?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And that's how I started my first title. Did I use Premiere? Sure. Was I a video editor expert? Not necessarily, but I said yes. And I'm like, yeah, I can do this, no problem. So that was my first title way back in the day. And right now it's just kind of showing the newest courses. But yeah, I have a library of easily over 25 courses. So I used Premiere Pro to get me started. And that got me into, as soon as I was in the system with lynda.com, LinkedIn Learning, the other titles started rolling in as well. So I would do Dreamweaver, super popular for a while. Did that for a long time. And then got into Adobe Edge, Animate. There's a ton of courses. Adobe XD, you know, Creative Cloud crash course. It just like led one to the next, and that's kind of my story with LinkedIn, kind of in a nutshell. But I also want to dive deeper into this if I could, guys, because it goes deeper than this, right? We could talk about sort of how LinkedIn Learning finds you, right? And back in the day, yeah, I worked for Adobe kind of like as a vendor. So that's one thing you could do, is you could actually work for the company that they need software training on, right? That's one thing you can do. Or, and I think this is really cool, if I started out today, I would probably start like live streaming trainings, like free content, not only on YouTube, but also on LinkedIn. So that's what I would do if I were you. I'll just kind of switch over really fast. Actually over here, right over here, we can see if we can find some of this stuff, but basically we might run into some of my streams as I kind of scroll down. I would live stream to LinkedIn, like literally I do this, like I did this earlier today, by the way, on the Adobe Creative Cloud account. But that's one way to just kind of get your name out there. It's like produce good content, push it out to as many platforms as you can, in the hopes that the right people notice, right? And usually the right people do like come knocking. I think just like Skillshare and a number of other companies that have approached me for doing training, right? So a number of them have. And honestly, the LinkedIn learning is just kind of like my side hustle that I do, that I've been doing for 20 years. Because I started this in 2002. That's when I started doing all this stuff, 2002. So, you know, and it's just always kind of like been my side hustle because I've had a full-time job. But it was a good combo of having this sort of real world experience making websites and then turning around teaching how to make websites using Dreamweaver. So yeah, so it's worked out really well for me. I understand everybody might have different plans. Maybe you want it to be your side hustle, like go for it. LinkedIn Learning, and I don't mean to speak for LinkedIn at any stretch of the imagination. I'm just speaking. And by the way, this is out of date. This is what, 15 years? What is this? This hasn't been updated in 10 years. But anyways, the short of it is like, yeah, I don't speak for LinkedIn, right? I'm just one of their authors. They have many authors that are awesome. And most of those authors, you know, they might be freelancers and they have staff that also create training, right? So LinkedIn's smart enough to say, hey, you know what? Rather than us paying you all this money, let's just go ahead, hire you and pay you a salary, right? The people that are really well known in LinkedIn, like under these LinkedIn Learning banners in these certain areas, probably just do this on the side as well, because they probably have like a name built for themselves as well. Like if we did Deke McClelland Photoshop, right? I actually don't know 100% what his story is. I'm pretty sure he is not, and I don't mean to speak for Deke, but you have people that have such a large following and are so good, and they're not necessarily an employee because it just works out better that they're not for, say, Deke, and it just kind of varies. I hope I'm not getting in trouble by saying any of this. I'm just saying there's lots of different paths, you know, to get into, say, LinkedIn Learning or really any sort of training for any of these companies. These guys, you know, Skillshare. There's, of course, the master classes, which are awesome, just to name a few. So I can get into a little bit more, and let me just go ahead and make sure. Let's click over here and we go. Cool. Yeah, thank you. So I'm getting just reading some of the feedback. And by the way, I should have said this earlier. Feel free to ask any questions you want in chat. I'm going to be glancing at them as I kind of wind down each topic. But yeah, exactly. Start streaming content like anywhere you can. And honestly, just if you create good content, it's hard to be ignored. As Steve Martin has said, be so good that you can't be ignored, right? That's all you need to do is like work on what you do, and just, you're going to get better and better at it, and if you're showing that progress with the world, that's awesome as well, right? And that's fun because you could actually also see your progress. And I think it's fun. It's cool to um, show that, kind of look back, and because sometimes you get in a rut, you're like, oh, I suck as a designer, maybe as a teacher, who knows what. But when you look back, it should be encouraging, saying, oh, that's where my stuff was. Oh, I feel so much better about it. So yeah, just start streaming. It's not going to be perfect, but I know you're going to get better, of course, the longer you do it. And you just have that nice record of like, yeah, I have these videos from 98, or I don't even know if they're that old, but from 2002 sort of situation. So I encourage people to start streaming and just start getting your content out there and refine it based on, your own personal observations and others. So questions about the Adobe certifications, well, for later. So have those opportunities that were not available. Oh, okay. Questions come up from time to time about the credentials, since the certifications are pretty intense. So Phil, I think you're talking about the Adobe certification exams, the ACEs. First of all, I don't know where they're at today. Like, I just don't know where they're at today. I haven't taken one in a while. I will tell you that, like, when I took mine back in 2002, I failed the Photoshop one. It took me 3 times to take the test before I passed it. So I failed it twice before I finally passed it. So yes, they are pretty intense, as they should be, because they're saying that, hey, you're a certified expert. I thought I knew Photoshop, but I didn't know the print side as well as I thought I did. So I love tests. I love just being able to have a badge and sort of a stamp saying, hey, you do know this product. So, and now these days, that's like all I do is Photoshop. So, there's not a lot of, sometimes there would be sort of, training, books to pass those tests. And I don't know if there are anymore, but anytime there is anything like that, try to get a hold of it, because it looks good on your resume and really kind of shows you exactly what you need to know. If I step back, by the way, when I took this ACE, did they ask me if I had an art degree or anything? No, they don't care your official background, just so you know, or if you went to school for it or any of that stuff. They're just like, hey, you passed the ACE. Great. Bam. You're now on this list of like certified instructors, right? And even the people here that I'm looking at on LinkedIn, right, the Deeks of the world and all that stuff, like I don't know if they have a degree in it or not. I just care that the title has good reviews. And it performs well. Like, if it's a good video, I don't really care what the background would be of the person, just so you know. So that goes a long way. Now, that being said, right, I know where I'm broadcasting. I know MCAD. Like, I can't stress enough how important, like, having an actual an official degree helps. By the way, it's just it did wonders for me. Because it just, at the end of the day, it shows that you can complete assignments on time at the very least, that you can talk and write papers and do all the fundamental things that you need to when it comes to any sort of job. You can show up on time and all that stuff. That's what I think college does for you. But I understand it's not, it might be cost prohibitive for some people. Okay, so do you recommend having a script written to read from while streaming, or is it better to just have a general idea of what you'll be teaching? And I think I gave out the wrong login, so this is definitely my fault. But the short of it is, yes, have your script. And I was going to open that up, so we could really peek, sort of behind the scenes if you want to. And we'll just take a look at sort of like this Adobe XD new features, right? So what do? You create a table of contents. So we could talk about sort of creating an actual course, right? This is what you do. You're like, okay, let's outline the course, all the different videos when it comes to the Adobe XD new features, right? You write that down. And this is their format. It's like a description, the number of videos, the chapters they'll go in. And then for each one of those, you'll then turn around and typically you'll write out a whole script for all of that. I don't know if this is going to be the actual one. We can maybe open this up. And take a look. So we'll open this up. But what works well, so some people, they literally write out every word. Your Howard Pinskys of the world will write out every single word for a video and then just read it off a teleprompter. If that works for you, great. If you're a good writer, great. What I usually do is I write a strong intro and then I write a strong outro. And then the actual video, I will just talk through what I'm doing, right? So again, we'll just kind of open up a video. Case in point, I'll typically have, and I won't play this, but usually there's audio up at the front of my intro of what I'm going to be covering. And then I go through, and here I'm just ad-libbing the whole way. It's like, oh, you take this, you put that there, blah, 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 blah. Right. And then the end, you need a tight intro and a tight outro at the very least is all I would say. Now, provided if you do have a script fully written, it's going to go much faster, right? Because you've already worked out the kinks. This is probably take number 25. Not really. But like if you don't have anything written, you're going to spend a lot of times recording and getting what you're saying you're just right. So you either spend time on your script or you spend time recording and you do whatever works for you, right? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be all about the content, or sort of at the end of the day, it's going to be the content, sort of like what you output here. That's going to be most important, right? And what I think is cool, here's another thing. You ready for this? The short of it is like you could start live streaming to LinkedIn. You could start live streaming or at least uploading videos to YouTube, right? And let me mute this before the audio kicks in. Start creating videos and pushing them out there. And then slowly you'll start to get like more and more subscribers. And this isn't even that many, by the way. I get it. It's not a huge priority for me, but I'm like, hey, if I want to get noticed, I'll start outputting good content. And that good content, after a while, again, fingers crossed, you're going to learn a lot. But as these numbers get higher, it's going to start attracting a lot of people. And you want these training companies to kind of fight for you, saying, hey, you know what? This new person, they're really good at videos. Let's have them work for me. So there's always YouTube, a place you can start to just record training content for those out in the real world, you know, and just see what happens, which again, I think is like super cool. Because again, you want to be so good that people just can't ignore you in these situations. So yeah, Adobe, and just to rephrase that, Ellen, and I'll take a step back because it gets very confusing. Darn companies buying up other companies. But yeah, there we go. Like I wanted to work for Adobe for a long time, right? And eventually I got hired by them and they've probably regretted it ever since. Sorry, not really. But excuse me, lynda.com, you know, this is interesting. Like, so they used to do live conferences and then they said, hey, you know what? These live conferences are a lot of work. They started doing recording courses online and distributing them that way. So it's like they were doing a conference a day just by pushing out these courses, right? It worked so well for them. Linda Weinman, she's the one that started lynda.com. She's well known back in the late 90s for a lot of her web books, like her web standards books and stuff like that. But lynda.com, they just got so big that you couldn't ignore them. Like LinkedIn was like, hey, we want something like that. Let's just go ahead and, let's go ahead and buy you, right? And now they're owned by LinkedIn. So that's what you want to do, is you want to try to be big enough to where like people recognize you, and then buy you up for your content. Yes. Yes, that is interesting. So it's fascinating to think of that happening in pre-COVID times, sort of moving conferences online to be courses, which is like good for her to have that foresight to look at that and really just to look at the numbers. They're saying, hey, we could still charge people and they'll watch these videos, right? This is working out better for us rather than setting up and paying rent on a physical space or renting out a physical space and having a conference. But it was a good time for lynda.com. I think a lot of people got big on YouTube because when YouTube started getting big, the early adopters who were pushing out videos, they got big at the same time. So some of this can be could very well be timing, which I guess is kind of why I talk about like live streaming, and yeah, we've been doing it for a while. Like live streaming, it was perfect. Like for me, just to be honest with you, like me and the other evangelists, we were already live streaming. So when COVID kind of shut everything down and everybody was just kind of staring at their screen, we were there live streaming to everybody, right? So it worked out like perfect for us, just did quite well for us. But that's where we're at now. It's like people are now kind of doing this hybrid approach to work. Maybe they're half at home, maybe they go into the office half the time. Like you could take advantage of live streaming. Let this new live streaming be just like it was for YouTube when it first started out. Get all those views and all that stuff is what I would encourage. And live streaming on LinkedIn is pretty new, just so you know. So it's going to have its bugs and its pain points, but that's what it takes when you're at the cutting edge of things. You kind of get caught a little bit, but you'll have some cool stories to tell others about. Oh, I remember back in the day when this first started, remember when we used to live stream? We'll be saying that as well. Let me talk about, I'll go for a little bit longer. I want to talk about some tips when it comes to like presenting online, if I could do that. Okay. So this is going to be like really important. I think this goes for everyone. So you decide, hey, I want to be an instructor, an online teacher, and I'm going to use YouTube, LinkedIn, doesn't matter. What's going to captivate people? What's going to work well? We could talk about that. First off, what I'm doing right now is like, looking at you guys, it's like me, a real person looking at you and talking to you guys honestly, right? So nothing attracts like more than just like a person talking, right? It's just this, your eyes naturally gravitate toward pictures of people. Your eyes naturally gravitate toward movement, So we're talking about videos of people are like really, really important. Now let's focus on what you say, obviously. I'm not going to use any big words. I'm going to speak clear, and I'll tell you the best feedback I usually get through LinkedIn Learning is that I speak clearly and slow enough, right? Because there's some instructors that don't. I'm sorry, but I'd like to think that I speak clearly, good English with not a lot of any sort of regional accent or anything. Because you got to think a lot of people watching these trainings are, English might not be their first language. So just be really slow with your words. I get a little fast. I get fast when I get nervous. I'll just run through things, but try to be clear and articulate. And these are just basic things that you need to know, right? Also, when you're doing training like online, a lot of times they're not looking at the screen. But, just like some people here, like aren't really looking at the screen. You're not really watching my lips move, but you're listening to me. So somebody won't always watch the video, but they will always hear the audio. So that's why audio, what you say, how it sounds should be of good quality. This is all pretty basic stuff, but hopefully that makes sense. So get a new mic, right? We're at this point where like anybody for a minor investment can get a laptop, right? Can get a decent mic and hopefully just a decent webcam and can start producing content. I make it sound really simple, right? It's more than just that, but I'm trying to get you to like invest in what's important, you know. Obviously you want to be yourself and not be anyone else, right? So don't try to be anybody else because it's too hard, right? And that's what's that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? If you're genuine, it's going to come across as being very genuine, right? You're going to want to speak on stuff that you know, of course, and not stuff that you don't, because people can easily like kind of see right through that, just so you know. But you do have to start somewhere, because like I said, my very first LinkedIn Learning video was on software that I didn't know, which is crazy. I think back like, yeah, I could do. Oh, Premiere Pro. You know what it was? It was Premiere. It was like Adobe Premiere Pro. Who knows what version? Super old version. I had to use the beta software because they wanted to cover like the new features. Guess what? The beta software, nothing works in the beta software. So you're sitting there trying to get your, hands dirty on this, and it's constantly crashing and there's issues because it's beta software. So I spent too many times up till 2 a.m. recording stuff in a little studio booth in Ventura, California at the time, and then also Boulder, Colorado as well. So I don't know if that helps. I could go on and on about of course, videos and engaging with the audience and everything, but I don't want to bore you too much. So
you're not boring at all. No, this was great. Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes.
Awesome. I wonder about, you gave such good advice about how to get started if you're interested in teaching online, and this advice about putting yourself out there and starting to make some content. Do you notice any trends that are that might be useful for people in terms of either areas that need attention or topics that seem to be really exciting, or areas for growth? Anything along those lines?
That's a great question. I can only speak to my industry, which is design. And right. You want to look at, of course, what's trending, what's trending on, say, Twitter under those hashtags, and just kind of what's going on in the news. I know NFTs were big for a bit. So I'm like, okay, here's an opportunity to talk about this new technology and really just make a simple video on what NFTs are and how they work. So that's if it's in the news, but you have to get on that right away. I'm not even saying I'm that good at it. I know other people that are so good at knocking out a video as soon as, you know what I'm saying? Apple announcement, boom, 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 video's done. Awesome. That's pretty good. But that's just one area, by the way, because you could talk about trends. I think the opposite of that. So you could talk about design trends, but also talk about design fundamentals. So again, back to what you know as a person, some of that stuff never changes. Is the English language really changing that much? You know what I'm saying? But again, design fundamentals don't change. That's an invaluable video to create content on. Is it that current? No, but that's a video you'll be passing to people 10 years from now, I feel. And it's a video you're going to need to do so sooner or later, at least in my case. You're hey, you got to do a fundamentals of design.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Absolutely. Curious about, so you have had, I didn't even realize your tenure with lynda.com, which then became LinkedIn Learning, was so long and deep. Which is awesome.
I'm getting exhausted just thinking about it. So exhausting.
And do you have any thoughts on folks who are just starting out right now? And I know you went over a lot of different tips, but just to give that one more opportunity, anything?
Yeah, well, my general tip is you don't need to, and I've been thinking a lot about this lately. You don't need to be 100% better than 200% better than the next person. It doesn't take a lot to get ahead in life. It's just it's just 5% more. It's spending a little bit more time on things over the weekend. And that 5% more is going to get you noticed, right? Everybody's doing the basic stuff. What 5% more? And I can point out countless times where that's benefited me like greatly. Like, why was I at this conference? Oh, I wanted to learn this. Why was I talking to this person? I wanted to learn about this. Like that gets you noticed. And then it just more opportunities start opening up. Like even to this day, like NFTs, like any new opportunity, like just that little bit more is going to get you noticed. And I encourage people to do that. Like try to do it. Yeah. And you know, also it's going to be a lot of hard work. Hey, you know, but hopefully you enjoy it. I make it sound like it's pain. No, like hopefully you like this stuff and you're like, yeah, I do want to learn about this and I want to get better. And I know it's going to be hard work sometimes. You know, so hopefully that helps people. It's helped me just doing that a little bit more in everything I do if I can.
Well, it's great to hear
including
that
desserts. I'm like, oh, give me just 5% more of that dessert, 10% more of that, just a little bit more. No, anyways.
No, for sure. Like, and that's, I'm hearing that trend in what, as you talk about how to do well with this online teaching, that idea of just doing a little bit better than the next person, focusing on things that you are passionate about, so that you can actually enjoy the work. So it's not quite as much of a chore. It's going to be hard work, but like if you're able to focus on what drives you, perhaps you'll be more successful in that way.
And you're right, because it's honestly going to come through in your voice and video and all that stuff. Like I have had countless people call me out and say, Paul, are you tired?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh yeah, a little bit. And sometimes I'm not. I'm like, I got plenty of hours of sleep. What are you saying? Paul, you look tired. But people know when you're not paying attention, or you're not engaged, and you're not, people know that stuff, and you're not pulling one over on anyone. But if you're genuinely excited about it and it happens to be 2 a.m., like, hey, record that video. Like, let your excitement come across. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, hopefully it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really fun.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, Paul, thank you so much. I'm watching the chat. I think we've answered all of the questions in there. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you. This was great. This was perfect. So
I'm glad you like it. I could talk your ear off about this stuff because it motivates me. Because when you think back about your career, like wherever you're at, you're like, think about the keynote moments in your life that even those little successes, what was it? And it's fun picking that. What was it? It was probably just that little bit more that you did that nobody else did. And that in the long run just like makes all the difference. And here I am, you know, just like living the life. I work from home. I've gotten to travel around the world like multiple times. I'm probably going to be speaking in Saudi Arabia here at the end of the year if it opens up there. But it's like those crazy opportunities wouldn't happen if I didn't do just like a little bit more. I'd like to think. I don't know. Maybe I was the fifth choice, but I don't care. Either way, they asked me.
Exactly. Like taking those opportunities where they land, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I'll take it all. But yes.
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Paul. Everyone else, thank you. Have a beautiful evening. And keep an eye out. We'll have more presentations starting fall semester 2021.
Thank you so much, Ellen.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.